Hello, and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Rasile. This is the show where we get to talk about business, we get to talk about sports, we get to talk about everything in between. Wherever you are, however you're listening, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, 5 stars, blah, blah, blah. Today, incredible guest. I have Brandon Copeland, Professor Cope, as it says. I love that. Ivy League professor, financial education consultant, philanthropist, real estate developer, and oh yeah, Atlanta Falcons linebacker. Brandon, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. As you mentioned, Professor Cove, I should have misspelled it. I got to change the trends of professors. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to disrupt the space a little bit. But no, I appreciate you having me on. Excited to be here and excited to have a great conversation, Mike.
Brother, the pleasure is all mine, and I cannot wait. This is going to be a lot of fun. I mean, first question I have for everybody on the For the Love of Sports podcast, I think it's a pretty easy one. It's right in the name. Why do you love sports so much?
Well, sports have always been just an outlet for me personally, right? I think sports give you the opportunity to do things, and I mean, when you talk about football in particular, right? I'll talk about my sport. It just gives you an opportunity to do some things that you would not get the chance to do as just a normal individual walking around. And I'm talking about like football, for example, was the only sport, well, it's not the only sport, but one of the few sports in the world where you can hit somebody and potentially knock them out and everybody cheers for you, right? Like people get excited for you, people are applauding you and all of that stuff. And clearly that's not, if you go do that in just in walking the streets of New York City, you're behind bars, right? So for me, that was always a beautiful thing about sports and football in particular. And then now, I mean, as a older man or a guy that's growing up, right? Like I think you appreciate the things that the athletic culture or the locker room allows you to do that you can't do otherwise, right? Like I used to always think, it's funny coming into the NFL. I was like, some of the stuff I wear might be weird, or if the average person wore them, people would be like, that's weird. But like, because I'm an athlete, I can get away with it, right? Or I can wear sweatpants every single day this week if I wanted to. And because I'm an athlete, it's okay, right? So I think that some of those things, like I'm not ready to be done with my athletic career. And I know that you can obviously wear sweats every day if you want to, but you get my point. It's like it just gave me a free pass to just completely do what I want to a certain extent. So that's why I love sports.
I mean, it's so important, right, to understand like I think you put it perfect. You can do things on a football field that are highly illegal everywhere else in the world,
Holly.
right? You can't really do
Exactly.
that kind of thing. You can't go chuck stick someone on the sidewalk in New York City, but as you said, you do it on the field. People love it, man. Shouting your name,
Yeah.
shouting your number. It doesn't get any better than that. And there is, and that's obviously like the not quite facetious, but that's the joking version of it. But as a football player, you're obviously there's that shield, there's that team. There are people that pay a lot of money and they come, they watch you, they watch Matt Ryan, they watch your team every weekend, and they live and die. And believe me, so I'm a New York Giants fan. I've been dying these
Damn.
last few years, but I watch every single game. My dad's a Chargers fan, so I was watching the game with him last night, and he's
Oh
cheering, and I'm
wow.
just like, why am I doing this? Like, I could have
Yeah.
just stayed at my apartment. I didn't have to come home today, but there's that mentality specifically around football that I think that there is that you get so many more opportunities, but and I'm excited to talk about it. The career can be so short lived. Now
Yes.
you worked very hard. You've gone on multiple teams. You played for 9 years, if I'm not mistaken. So clearly, you've been able to do that. And also, don't call yourself old. I think we both turned 30 this year. So the professor stigma.
Only
Let's do
football
that 30.
years.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, I'll give you that one. I think that's important. So I do want to talk about, right. So you got into football, but you're coming from a very unique spot where you played at the University of Pennsylvania. And just to make sure
Mhm.
people understand, that is not Penn State University. That is not one of the most known football schools across America. Let's call it. You went to the Ivy League school based in Philadelphia, which I've went to. It's absolutely beautiful there. What was it about this school? And I guess going into it, how do you weigh the I want to play football, as long as I possibly can versus I want to get the best degree, I want to get the best education because my football life might be short, but
Yeah.
my life is hopefully going to be very long.
Yeah. No. It's one hell of a question. So in my senior year senior year of high school, excuse me, I was captain of the team, one of the five captains on the team, and third to last game, I wanted to play big time football. I really wanted to go to Syracuse, actually. The entire coaching staff got fired that was trying to recruit me. But long story short, really wanted to play big time football, and I had Ivy League schools looking at me, Princeton and Penn in particular. And the third to last game of my senior year of high school, somebody goes down on kickoff return. Coach is like, "Hey, Coach, would you get in there? We need you in the wedge." I didn't have to play special teams because I was a pretty good player at the time, and at a high school level, good players play special teams in the league, but at high school level, you don't touch that. So for me, yeah, Coach, I'm the captain. I got your back. Let me do it. And I went out there, and literally it was my first time playing kickoff return since seventh grade. And one of my own teammates falls on my ankle, falls on the back of my leg. My ankle pops, and I'm just limping around the rest of the season. Fortunately, I was able to keep playing, right? It wasn't season ending or career ending, but it just wasn't the same. I didn't feel like the same player, and I was just limping around the rest of the season. And I realized that quickly that with all those mentors and parents and grandparents in your life are saying, "Hey, you're one play away from this thing being over," I was like you're right. Like, I didn't have to be out here on this play, and my own teammate almost ruined my career, right? So for me, that's what made me say, "Hey, I'm going to go, and I have an opportunity to go to a school like Penn. I'm going to go there. I know I can have my brain for the rest of my life, and if I can make football work, that'll be gravy, so to speak." And I'm also blessed because I had a grandfather. Fortunately, he passed away in 2019, but he played 11 years in the NFL. His last year was actually with the Atlanta Falcons, so I get to see his name on the list of players that have played with the Falcons every single day I'm at the facility. But one of the things he always said in high school was like, "Listen, Cope, if you're good enough, they'll find you. So you'll be a big fish in a small pond, but there's nothing wrong with that. And if you go and do the work that you can do," and he always said, "I'd never lie to you, Cope, because lying to you would be like lying to myself. But I think you can play in the NFL. You just got to keep working hard. You got to stay away from certain things that detract a lot of players. And if you do that, then you can make it." So I took his advice and went. And obviously, for me, I like who I am today. So it's paid off tremendously for me.
It seems like it's working out for you, man. You're doing something right. So whatever you're doing, keep on doing it. And the universe works in weird ways, right? Your grandfather plays for the Falcons. You get to the opportunity to play for the Falcons. You earn the opportunity to play for the Falcons. I think that's pretty important. And then so with that specifically, I guess what were your expectations for yourself, right? Like, of course, I want to play in the league. I'm going to do everything I can to get there. But was there a time where it was like, hey, if I don't, that's cool. You were an undrafted free agent, so I know like that pool is very big. What is it? 252 is, there's
Yeah.
252 players drafted, and then after that, there's a big pool of undrafted. But what were those expectations you had on yourself just to crack training camp one year, to play 10 years in the league as you're doing now? How did you kind of see yourself moving into it?
Yeah, so for me, it was a day by day thing, and I think that's one thing that's truly paid off for me. Again, being fortunate enough to have a grandfather who played in the NFL, and it was a totally different time, right? Especially from a player protection and safety standard, but and a money standard as well. But I, I remember the night I got the call from the Baltimore Ravens saying, "Hey, we're going to sign you as an undrafted player." Undrafted free agent. Technically, I was signed to a 3-year, $1.45 million deal. And I was upset personally because they didn't draft me, right? I've just always been fortunate to be that type of guy who is like, I'm not happy with the moment or happy to be there, right? Like, I have dreams and a bucket list for myself that I personally want to check off before I leave this earth. So I remember, we had a party that night and everything like that. And for me, I was pissed off, to be quite honest with you, that they passed up on drafting me and they got me undrafted. But I understood that the work had just begun, right? And I think that that's the difference with me versus a lot of other people, is they think that, they're happy to be there. And it's easy to get lulled to sleep and think, "Hey, I made it. Like, this is my lifelong dream." But you don't realize that, like, you're on a 90-man roster and they got to cut down to 53, right? Like you got to beat out a lot of people. So for me, I've literally taken it one day, 1 week at a time. And even to this day, it's literally like Tuesday at 4 Eastern is when your money is guaranteed for the week. I still send my family a message Tuesday at 4:01 p.m. Eastern, 9 years into the NFL, when I know that I've made my money for the week, like, so again, every single week, I'm just trying to earn the next week, earn the next week, earn the next week. And then I've been also fortunate to be around a lot of great players and great mentors who literally talked about, don't go shooting for 10 years, shoot to have the greatest year you can this year. And then go shoot for I just want to earn the next year and then earn the next year. And then after a while, you look up and you're like, oh, dang, I got 7, 8 years in this thing, right? A lot of guys, I think, come in and they're like, I want to get 10 years. And you just have no idea the different amount of obstacles you're going to face over your career that will easily, I won't say potentially, easily deter you from reaching, over 5 years, over 1 year in the league. And you got drugs, you got family members, you got outside distractions, significant others, and things like that, right? You got so many different things in this day and age that can distract you. Injuries, right? Like some things that are out of your control. So for me, again, I literally take it a day at a time and just try to make myself the best player I can be today. Can I feel better today than I felt yesterday? And another thing, I mean, this is for the love of sports, so we kind of going pretty deep in here, is, for me, I look at football as, everybody starts the season at 100%, but the biggest thing that you have to do as an NFL player is, can I feel better than the player across from me on Sunday? Like, we're all banged up right now. Like, this game we just played this Sunday, I literally told my teammates, like, I don't feel like playing today, right? Like I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people out there. You're living a dream. Like, my knee hurts, my back hurts, I'm stiff. Same way you wake up in the morning, it's like, I don't really feel like doing anything today. I really don't feel like running around as fast as I can and running into other people today, right? But as you get older or more mature and learn about yourself more, you have to find ways to mentally tap into that beast, that animal, that person that has that hunger that makes you want to go out there and just, go crazy. So for me, I've learned that from when I start just talking and having fun and talking trash and all of that type of stuff, that's what keeps me locked in. So that's just some of the things I picked up along my career. But
I like it.
hopefully the listeners don't go into their workplaces, start talking trash to their boss.
I was gonna say, I think I'm gonna let you keep talking trash, and I'm gonna keep just asking questions over here on this side. You got anything nice to say? Or if you have any tips or pointers for me, when I'm actually doing really terrible in fantasy football this year, so I really can't say too much to anybody. But maybe next year
Gotcha.
we can turn things around a little bit. And so you talk about mentality, and I want to bring it back to something that you were saying a little earlier about, you have that list, you have this bucket list, these things that you want to check off, and
Yes.
I'm going to go with, I'm 99% sure getting drafted was on that list.
Yes.
Now, that can only happen once, and it didn't. So that mentality has to kick in, and I'm sure that made you work stronger, made you work smarter, harder, better, stronger, right? I think that's the quote. But with something like that, something that's out of your control, you're 21, 22 years old, you can never check that box off. That box will be unchecked for the rest of your life. Now, did you play 10 years in the league? Yes, that's a cool box you can check off. That's a little bit more important. But at that time, how do you kind of handle that internally? As you said, you were pissed, but how did you finally learn that you can only control what you can control? Because you can't control someone else drafting you. You can only control what you do after and how you react to that situation.
Yeah, no, it's a lesson that I learned my rookie year. It was during training camp, and one of the veteran players who actually we were in competition for the same spot. Long story short, I remember it was like 9 p.m. at night. We're just getting out of the facility, and he pulled me to the side, and he really didn't have to, and he was just like, "Listen, Cope, like, I want to let you know, in this league, you can't stress what you can't control." Like you can't control what the GM thinks of you, what the coaches think of you, right? All you can control is your preparation, your training, and then your performance for the most part, right? You can't control whether the offense runs to you and you get 10 tackles because they run to you versus them running away, or them passing the quick passes versus deep pass. You can't control that stuff, but the things you can control, you better make sure you're ready for those opportunities. And so I think that while I didn't have that lesson when I wasn't drafted, right, but I had that lesson a few months later, it really has sunk in with me, not only with my football career, but also my life, right? Like money, right? Capital One and I, we've talked about that before in our mind over money study. Is like there's certain things we have in our wheelhouse and our power. You will go crazy trying to control things that you have no control over. It's like me trying to convince you, Michael, to like me. You know what I'm saying? Or me trying to convince my neighbor to think I'm funny, right? Like, why? I mean, I understand that we're all human beings and we want to be loved and appreciated, but why would I waste my time trying to change the past or change someone else's perception of me when really I just need to focus on being the best version of myself today and let the chips fall where they may? And again, I know it sounds easier said than done to some people, right? And it is. In the moments, it's hard to, you get frustrated, you get angry, right? You want things to change. But ultimately, when you take a step backwards and realize, all right, I can shut down and, hey, I didn't get this thing on my bucket list, so I can curl up in a ball and cry about it, or I can go prove everybody wrong. That's how I typically use those things. It's just I gotta add fuel to the fire, and that's what keeps me going.
And I think it's important to understand you have to have the awareness to know what you can control, right? There are certain things that we think
Yeah.
we can control when in reality they're not within our control at all. We just think we can influence this decision to be made one way or another when that's not the case at all. So understanding that, and as you said, hey man, maybe their offense isn't running towards me today, but when it does, I'm going to do my best because that's going to show up on film. It's not everybody
Yeah.
knows, hey, if the offense didn't run to you, as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're good. Everything else, everything's going to show up on film, right? That's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. And I also, you bring up a great point, Mike, is like I did a TED talk this spring, and the topic was a lesson I learned from my grandfather. And it was like, long story short, one of the things he always said was, it's a poor rat that only has one hole. And I'm like, I remember being a kid, we would drive to school. And that's what the TED talks about. We would drive to school and there'd be a lot of traffic on one route. And he'd be like, Cope, like if we stayed on this route, we would be late for school. Like, it's remember this, Cope, in life, it's a poor rat that only has one hole. And then he just start driving, whipping his car around, and you'd be, clenching your seatbelt a little bit. But ultimately, we'd always pull up to the school on time, never late, and all that stuff. And he was always just like, if you have one way to reach your end destination, you're going to be stuck. When they close up that one hole, like, you got to find a way to reach that end destination. So just because that one thing wasn't checked on my bucket list, I ultimately have an end destination and end goals that I'm trying to chase. And for me personally, there's no excuse not to reach that end destination just because one door closes, right? Or one thing isn't checked off on the bucket list. Again, we can't curl up and just call it quits on life. In my opinion, we got to reach the destination by any means. So that's just a mindset that I have. Yeah. And that's helped me get to this point today.
And I think it's very important for people to understand, for athletes, entrepreneurs, business people of all shapes and sizes, right? You have to understand that, hey, if you work for a corporation, I don't know if you've paid attention to, the world the last 15 years, some stuff has gone down with corporations. Some industries rise, some industries fall, things like that happen. So you have to understand you can't tie yourself to one specific hole, as you like to put it, which I think is a great analogy, or one specific path, because the destination, right? Like, it's about the journey, not the destination, blah, blah, blah. But we're all trying to get to the destination in the end. And if you only have
Exactly.
one way to get there, by land, by sea, by plane, figure out how to go another way just in case. It's good to have
Right. Right.
maybe not a plan B, but another option to make sure you can still
To
get
get
to
plan
your
A.
plan A.
Exactly. And then I think, and I love this conversation, so I keep diving into it. But I think that it's like, I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. And I think that it's funny sometimes when people get negative stuff and they don't believe that that's happening for a reason as well, right? And I truly believe that, like, if I wasn't undrafted or if I made it right out of the league, I was an active player. I wasn't on practice squad with Baltimore, then cut after 4 weeks, then went to Tennessee Titans, then cut again, and then sat out second year after 2 weeks on Tennessee Titans roster, right? Like, I don't think I'd be here in year 9 because maybe my ego would be ridiculous, right? Like, maybe I wouldn't have made it this far. I wouldn't like it's funny because now I'm a 9-year vet, and there's times I'll go into the facility. We always live within 5 minutes of the facility because I always want to be close. I'll go into the facility at 9, 10, 11 p.m. at night, and I'll be on the bike. And recently I've been on the bike in the sauna and just working and just keeping my joints loose and going. And guys will see me sometimes. I was in it today after we lifted, and guys will see me like, "Oh, what are you doing? You're crazy." And I'm like the Peyton Manning talked years ago about the year he sat out because of his neck. And he talked about how he came back with a much deeper appreciation for the little details of the locker room, the cold tubs, the process, so to speak. I gained that appreciation by being the undrafted guy out of the University of Pennsylvania, right, who was told he wasn't good enough, right, and fired multiple times. I remember my key code wouldn't work to get in the door. So now I get in the door and I get all this free stuff, this big cold tub, this free food, right? Like, I'm taking full advantage of it. And I think that that's another thing that we as people discount sometimes, right? Like, if I would have made it right out of Penn, I probably wouldn't be sitting up there at 11 p.m. at night. Like, I think it was easy, right? But I understand that for me personally to stay in the NFL, my process is everything, and it takes time to do it. So again, I just think that everything happens for a reason. Even when things aren't checked off on your bucket list, that might be fuel that you need to reach and unlock that next level of your potential.
And so you brought up Capital One, and we're going to talk about your partnership with Capital One because you guys are doing some incredible stuff. You're a professor at the University of Penn, your alma mater, as we were talking about. And clearly that, to me, that says that you want to share your wisdom. You want to share your knowledge, your experiences with people because you're coming from a different background. You're coming from a different place. And hey, if my story can change one person's life or one person's day and help them in any way, shape, or form, that's important, right? I want to change the world, but let's do it one person at a time. That's the way we're actually going to do it. So I'm kind of curious from the NFL perspective, right? You have guys coming in the building, first round draft pick. You don't get cut after unless you're like just a piece of junk. You're not getting cut those first. Oh, we've all seen it. We don't need to get into it. We don't need to get into it. But like we don't like how are you looking at those young guys coming in the building? Those first, second round draft picks, the ones that nothing's a guarantee, but essentially guaranteed a spot for that year. You're seeing those undrafted guys come in. How do you kind of take it upon yourself to like either reach out and at least offer some experience, some wisdom, or reach out and say, hey, if you need anything, this is what I'm doing. Maybe it doesn't work for you. How do you have those conversations? Again, kind of juxtaposing it with you're literally teaching college kids now. Like that's kind of what you're doing. So I'm kind of curious, how do you then take that and use that experience in the NFL?
Yeah, no, I think it's just providing a resource and a sounding board, right? Like for me, I don't push what I do on people, right? I don't push my beliefs on people. I'm just here to help. I want people to, I think when I came into the NFL, for example, a couple of weeks ago, we hosted a venture investment call. I invest in companies before they go public. I remember I learned about that my 5th year in the NFL, and I learned about it on my own and had to have calls with people on my own while there were guys in my locker room who were doing it and doing it well, right? And for me, I'm like, people shouldn't have to learn about these things on their own, right? Like I'm having this call, for example, with this company. If you want to join, there's no pressure at all. Join and listen, learn the language, learn the lingo. That's half the battle right there, right? Like a lot of us, we hear these things and it seems like rocket science at first, but no one's ever invited us into this space. So for me, I look at my job as just, even with my college students, like they understand that I don't claim expert status. I'm just sharing as I go, and I'm inviting you into the space so that you can take from it and you can go and take it wherever you want it to go and wherever you want it to build you. So there are guys who come up and they want to talk, right? And they want to have conversations. They want to help me. They want me to help them vet their team and all of those things, help with investment opportunities and all that type of stuff. And again, it's an awesome opportunity because there's some guys who would shy away from it, but for me, uh, it's legacy personally because of when you think about it, especially when we talk about money, right? Like the reason why I've chosen to try to make impact with money is because it doesn't just help the individual you're talking to or the individual student that I'm talking to, right? Like the goal is for this to have a ripple effect and a trickle down effect to your family, your community, right? Like if you as an NFL player feel more confident in your money, or if my college student feels more confident in her money, for example, I said her, we had a student named Raquel. She graduated and she sent us a note of how she paid down $140,000 in student loan debt in 2 years. She made it her priority. She literally concludes us on this because she said that this is the information and the knowledge, and the only reasons why she attacked it so aggressively was because of our class that she took in her final semester of her senior year, right? That, in my opinion, is potentially life changing because now, like I told her, now you keep this same aggression up, this same energy up, and now you're paying yourself first, right? Instead of putting that money to the side for debt and paying off loans, now you're investing, right? And that's not going to just trickle down to her as an individual, but the family that she has one day, right? Her children will reap the benefits of mama being debt free, and I think that to me is legacy. That's the coolest thing in the world because nobody can tell you how many tackles I had. I can't even tell you how many tackles I had 3 weeks ago I don't even know who we played 3 weeks ago, right? But, I'm pretty sure the people that we help in that manner and the people that we're helping with Capital One in that manner, right? Like, I'm pretty sure that those people will remember what we did for them.
Yeah, and even if they don't, who cares? You still like
Exactly.
that's also kind of the cool part, right? Like she's gonna go share her story with someone who's gonna share her story with someone else, and it's gonna be so far removed from you and what you did. It's never gonna come back to you. But that's still like that's true legacy. Like it doesn't
Exactly.
matter that they knew, Atlanta Falcons linebacker Brandon Copeland helped me with it. They knew, hey, like this eventually got to this person. Now, however, the water got down to the seed is the important part, and that it actually grew,
Exactly.
right? And you're planting all these seeds. A good friend of mine, David Meltzer, always says that plant as many seeds as you can.
Yep.
Sometimes, the tree's going to grow and it's going to shade somebody that you never thought of or could ever imagine. But it doesn't matter. That's the coolest thing in the
Yep.
world is you have the opportunity to help that person that way. So I've always
David
liked the way.
Metzler
Good,
right there, man.
good
I
friend of
talked to him
mine.
a couple of weeks ago, man.
Yeah,
That's a good dude right there. What a
yeah.
rock star right there, man.
He's incredible. I've known him for a few years. He's been a huge help in pretty much everything that I've done in the last,
Awesome,
let's
man.
call it, 3 years. So he's a big help.
Awesome.
Incredible. Shout out to Dave. He's
Small
a good friend
world.
of mine. Don't get to see him as much with the pandemic kind of going on anymore, but
Yeah.
hey, it is what it
Sucks.
is. I rock with him when I can. That's the important part.
There we go.
So I do want to specifically again shout out Capital One. Appreciate them for having you come on here, but more importantly, again helping you build that legacy. So I'm kind of curious. What came first? Was it Capital One saying, "Hey, we think you'd be really great at teaching a class"? You going to UPenn and saying, "Hey guys, I'd like to teach this class." Them coming to you saying, "You did pretty good being a student here. You want to be a teacher." Like, how did this whole opportunity come about? And really,
Yeah.
again, how did that seed get planted?
Yeah. So I'm a go getter, Michael. I'm gonna go ahead and throw that out there,
Seems
man.
like it. Yeah.
Nah, so originally I reached out to the University of Pennsylvania to teach the course. Well, not to teach the course, to create the course. I didn't
Okay.
necessarily understand if I wanted to teach it or not, right? I just knew that there was a value in teaching students about the constants of life. That's why we call it Life 101. They were like, we need some nice educational long name that we can put in here, financial empowerment, and it's Life 101. This is life,
Branding.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How to buy a house. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about your credit. Let's talk about investing, things we really gonna have to do, right? And as we started with the course and we're having success with the course, right? Students coming in and students reaching back with feedback. We were able to get in touch with Capital One about the things that they were trying to do with educating people throughout the world, really, So for us, we've been fortunate because what we've tried to do is align ourselves with folks like Capital One who are truly, truly about helping people, right? Like, so when you look at, like, one of the things we look at is like, how many things are you offering? How many services are you offering to potential clients that aren't even paying you a dollar yet? How much value are you providing them? And as a business, we're all businesses, right? In the
Yep.
hopes that maybe eventually they'll provide a dollar, but like, how much are you willing to offer for free? Because I did the course, I taught the class at Penn for free as an NFL player, right? Like, my time is pretty valuable. Your time is valuable. All of our time is valuable. But the first year, I taught the class for free. And Capital One, they literally educate people for free. You can go into any one of their cafes in the country and get free coaching on your money, free financial advice and coaching and guidance on your money so that you can feel more comfortable about your money for free, whether you're a client of theirs or not. And so there alone, right, that was like huge to me. It's just the fact that, because you don't see that a lot. And I'm really, especially with everything that's gone on social justice wise in this country for the past, not just the past couple of years, it's been highlighted the past couple of years as a result of the pandemic and everyone sitting at home in front of their computers and TV screens. But I'm a huge believer in being as conscious as possible when you're spending your dollars, right? For me, I want to spend my dollars with the companies and the brands that actually care about me, right? And so there's not too many that are providing free services to people who don't even spend a dollar with them. And I think that alone was like a great marriage right there. It's education, right? So that alone was awesome. And then again, we've just continued to build since then, found ways to talk to HBCU students, get indoors. And really my goal when we started teaching the course was to democratize the access to information. So I've been literally quoted the first year we started having the course of like, hey, if the course is just at Penn 5 years from now, I have royally failed because it shouldn't just be at an Ivy League school. The reason why I did it at Penn at first was not just because it's my alma mater. It's more because if a school like Penn says that, hey, this is important, why is your school not saying it's important?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yep.
And so we've shot the courses online. There are literally high school students who are taking my course for credit now online, which is awesome. So the plan is coming. The vision is continuing to evolve. But again, it all starts with that root of education. So we're educating people on their money. Capital One and I were educating people on credit, their Saver One student cards and Quicksilver student cards, right? Trying to get people to build their credit profile and their credit history so that eventually they can afford the things that they worked their entire lives for, right? I got this shirt on here that says successful, and I know some people are looking at it like, why did he spell it wrong, right? But we've been working on a new podcast called Copeland with Success. Would love to have you on one day, right? And it's really just challenging the idea and the thought of what success is, right? And for me, I really just want to be full. And what does that look like? For me, that might be relationships with my family members, might be relationships with the community. For you, it might be something totally different. So, when I grew up, it was all about money. That was what drove me. But as I've made some money, I realized that like I'm just a hamster on a hamster wheel. If that's all that I'm chasing is that net worth number. So again, we really want to educate people on the full spectrum of their relationship with money. And that is why my marriage with Capital One has been going so great. And I hope they don't dump me.
Well, if it's going great, I assume they're not going to go anywhere. So shout out Capital One. I think again, the course itself is a cool idea, and it's always something. Even when I was like 18, I'm graduating high school. Is like, well, I don't know what a mortgage is. I don't know how taxes work. The only reason I have a credit card is because I guess you get points, and so like that's essentially what I learned coming out of like a upper middle class area where we have good high schools, good everything, and you kind of expect they do something like that. I've been told, 12 years removed from high school now, things have changed and they actually do have some things like that. But it was always just mind blowing to me. Even at the time, I was like, well, do I need to learn calculus or do I need to learn how to pay taxes? I think I'm going to learn how to pay taxes because that's actually going to do something move forward. So, and I think it's really important again for a brand like Capital One, for a company that, as you said, aligns with you. It's not just oh, hey, there's money here. Like, let's kind of figure out how this works. It's you are doing your thing, they're doing theirs. And as you said, this is a marriage. This is a partnership where you're both able to elevate each other, which those, as we all know, end up being the best possible partnerships, which I think is the most important. But I am curious, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does this happen if you aren't in the NFL? Do you get to go to Penn and
Great
say, "Hey, I want
question.
to do this"? And they're like, "Well, you
Um,
graduated, cool, man. Like, what are you doing now?" It's like, "Oh, well, I'm in the NFL." Oh shit, we got an NFL play. Yeah, let's try. Let's. How many more opportunities come to you? Capital One, UPenn, all these things, investor, real estate developer, because you can say
I'm
NFL
in the
player
NFL.
at the end of
Yeah.
that sentence.
No, I don't take that for granted. I understand that I am privileged in that regard to be able to use the NFL tag to skip the line.
Mm-hmm.
Ego
That's a
wise,
that's a great
I'll
way of
be
putting it, though. I just want to make
yeah,
point to skip the line because there's a lot of
yeah.
other people that are reaching out
Oh
that
yeah, one hundred percent.
oh hey yeah we'll talk after the holidays. Oh, we'll do this. But as you said,
Yeah.
no, I get to skip the line, and as you said, you're privileged. You get that opportunity, but you're clearly taking advantage of it. I just wanted to make note of that.
No, yeah, 100%. I think it's a great point and a great question because it's something that I talk with my students about candidly, right? Like for me, ego wise, honestly, I really truly it would, I know 100% it would take a lot longer. You know what I'm saying? People wouldn't just be answering my emails that quickly without, hey, I'm 9-year vet with the Atlanta Falcons, right? Sports
Hey,
Thirty Under
Brandon,
30.
I
Yeah.
actually just lost you for like the last like 20 seconds. So you were just
Okay.
starting to talk about ego. So if you don't mind just kind of starting over there, I appreciate it.
No problem. Can you hear me now?
I can. You're kind of cutting in and out a little bit. It's a little choppy, but you're kind of coming back into frame.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Yeah, all good.
Uh,
Internet, man. It never works for the full time that we need it to.
yeah, I apologize, but it looks like it's fine on my end. Do you want me? I can try to hook it up to a hotspot to my phone if you want, but if not, if it's fine now, then I'll just keep going.
Yeah,
I didn't want to mess up the
you're
recording.
starting to come through a little bit better. So everything I think is starting to figure itself out.
Okay. Another Wi-Fi off of everything else. Um, sorry, let me pick up where we left off. Boom. So yeah, so ego wise, Michael, I want to be honest with you. Like, I truly believe that without the NFL, I would still be here in this seat. I just understand that realistically, it would have taken a lot longer. Like people wouldn't answer my emails as quickly, and people wouldn't be as willing to go out of their way to help me become a professor at Penn, right? An adjunct, all of that stuff, right? So I think that I truly believe that, but I'm also ego-wise, like my dreams have to be accomplished. If not, I've wasted my life. So, that's just who I am as a person. So again, I also want to make sure that others understand that, like, you I don't want others to feel like the only reason you can do certain things in this world is if you have a certain status. You know what I'm saying? Like, understand, like, and that's one thing I try to teach. I talk to other players about. I'm like, Arthur Blank is our owner. Did he play in the NFL? I don't know. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but he pays all of our checks. Like when you think about that, right? Like, and there's other people out there who look at us playing on Sundays and are looking at us like these dudes are crazy, whoo, and sitting back and enjoying us as entertainment, but like they're not about to go out there and potentially put their body through 2 pec surgeries like I have just to play the sport that they love. So again, I just I want people to feel empowered that they can reach their goals regardless of any quote unquote obstacle or platform that they have. What I have done a solid job at is I am maximizing my platform. Like, if my platform is a towel, I am wringing that bad boy out and like looking to make sure every single drop of potential I can get out of it is wrung out of it. And so again, I think that that's what I have done a decent job of as well. But it definitely doesn't come without sacrifices. Most people know. I think that I think some people understand it, but it's yeah, life is busy. I'll say that, and
Active.
it's good. It's good though. You can't ask for blessings and then be whoa, not that many blessings. Nah, you gotta keep that thing keep working. So
Life is active. We don't like to use the word busy. It has such a negative connotation to it. You're active. You're
yeah,
doing stuff. You're getting stuff
yeah,
done. If you're busy, it's, oh, I'm busy. It's, no, no, no. I'm active. I'm getting paid. I'm doing what I need to. The last
touche.
question I
I like
have,
that.
Brandon, again, really, really appreciate you being here. Shout out Capital One. Shout out the Falcons. Shout out Melissa and the Taylor team. They're all incredible over there as well. What
Shout out.
you were talking about before, you have that, there is that end destination, right? You're on this
Mhm.
journey and you got a lot of different paths that you can go down, and seems like a lot of them are kind of converging and crossing and doing what you need to do to get there. What is that end destination? What does that look like? Maybe not deathbed, that's a little
Mm.
morbid, but like, where are you trying to get to? Where are you trying to go? And say like, okay,
Yeah.
obviously I have more to do and there's always going to be that next one, but what does that look like to you?
Yeah, Michael, and it's evolving day by day, to be honest. But it's the end destination for me is complete financial freedom, right? Like I used to get shy, or I used to shy away from the fact that people would ask me, like, "Hey, you're doing real estate, you're doing venture investing, you're like, what do you want to do when you're done football? You want to come work for my company? You want to come do this? You want to do that?" No, I don't want to work for your company. I want to do exactly what I'm doing now. Like I want to do my dream when I'm done football, or just my dream and destination is to really truly be able to do what I want when I want, right? And it's not about, for me, it's not about taking a private jet wherever I want in the world, right? It's just going wherever I want in the world. It's about going to the grocery store and not having to worry about what the price of milk is, right? Or eggs this month, right? Like, and it might be simple in that regard, but ultimately, there's some days I'm going to wake up and I'm going to want to be a real estate investor and focus on that. There's other days I'm going to wake up and focus on the foundation and community stuff we're doing, right? There's other days I'm going to focus. Well, every day I'm going to wake up and want to be a great father and husband and all that stuff. But I don't want to be, I think that growing up, like if we look at society overall, right? There's a lot of people, if they miss a day of work, they're stressed, right? Like they don't know if they're going to be able to go back to that job. They don't know if they're going to make ends meet that month. And for me personally, I just never, ever, ever thought that I was put on earth to do that or to work for somebody else. And it's not nothing. Let me make sure I really hone in on that. It's not about working for someone else. It's about feeling like my livelihood is tied to their thoughts of me. So backing up a little bit, I've had multiple internships, but one of my biggest internships was at Union Bank of Switzerland, UBS in New York City, in 2010. Um, 2010 going into 2011. But long story short, that was coming off the 2008 financial crisis, right? So I remember being at UBS and literally there'd be emails coming out that, hey, we're laying off 15,000 members across the globe, not the country, the globe. And watching people 40 some years old, 50 some years old, stressing, wondering what the heck they were going to do. And again, as a junior in college, I was a sophomore going into a junior in college, I'm just taking it all in. And I'm just like, this guy right now that I'm talking to, I'm shadowing him at his desk, and he's 40 some years old. I can kind of tell you don't really like your boss, but when your boss comes around, you're kissing their ass a little bit because you're afraid that you're going to get fired. And I understand that we all got to play nice. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with working for someone. I work for the Atlanta Falcons and for my clients, right? But ultimately, I want to always have the freedom to be myself. And for me, that was the most important thing in the world. The final story I'll give on that, I remember talking with one of the people who took me under their wing at that internship. And one of the biggest things I personally was going through right before this internship began, I was going through a depression and a soul search. And I remember going into the internship, it was my first suit that I ever bought. I bought an iPhone simply so that I could just go on Safari and look up words
Love it.
that I didn't know or understand, right? Like I was going all in for it, but I remember telling myself, like, listen, I'm gonna go up here to Connecticut, New York, never been to some of these places, and if I'm going to lose, I'm going to be myself and lose. I'm not going to lose trying to be somebody else, somebody I'm not, trying to be too polite and all that stuff. I'm going to ask the questions that I want to ask, because we can all sit down there and try to ask what we think the other person wants to hear us ask and stuff like that. But I want to ask you things that I really want to know, because I think sometimes experience is also about crossing certain things off the list. If this isn't for me, I want to know, so I never have to waste my time doing this type of internship
What
again.
not to do, right?
Exactly. So I remember sitting down with him and we're talking about how he's trading certain things and all that stuff. And long story short, we get into this conversation. He's got to be about, I think he was about 42 at the time or so. Got pictures of his 3 daughters up there. And I was like, we were talking about what he does. And then long story short, we ended up somehow getting to the topic of happiness. And I remember asking him, and I knew at the time, I was like, I probably shouldn't ask this question, but whatever. Are you happy? And I remember him taking this long pause, looking at the screen, and then he looked at his daughters and he said, no, I'm not happy. He said, I make a great living. My daughters can do whatever they want. I go home and, we don't have to worry about food or money or anything like that. But ultimately, I'm pushing around pieces of paper, claiming ownership on it, and I'm not really happy. And I remember in that moment in time, nah, I can't personally do that, So for me, that's why there are so many different things that I'm doing. And I've had so many mentors and so many people tell me, you need to focus just on football or focus just on real estate or slow down. And I'm like, that I get anxiety trying to do that more so than just doing what I actually love. So again, sorry to go in with all the different stories, but I just hope that it helps somebody else, right? Like I am a big advocate on creating the life that you want to live. So whether it's me being in the NFL, or whether that's me having to be the best janitor in the world, or whether that's me figuring out how to be the best janitor and scale that business to create the capital that I need to do real estate, whatever it may be, that's what I am going to do, period. And I think once we all commit ourselves to that mindset, you don't have to have my mindset, but once you commit yourself to, regardless of what anybody else says or any outside influence, I am doing this, period. That's when things in my mind get a lot easier, because then you don't give yourself wiggle room to snake out of not doing what you want. Then you don't give yourself wiggle room to be that guy at 40 years old talking about, well, man, I promise you I could have been the greatest player in the world, but I got your auntie pregnant. There ain't no excuse, buddy. Like, get on the field, do what you can do, right? So again, I'm sorry to kind of go on a tangent there, but again, I love this, man. I love this conversation.
That's why I love this show, man. I get to talk to people like you. And I mean, I want to hear your stories. I've never been in your shoes. I'm never going to be in your shoes. So I want to hear all the stories you got for me, man. And we've been at this about 50 minutes now. And Brandon, I sincerely appreciate your time. Thank you again to Taylor, to Capital One, to everyone involved. Mark Beal specifically, he was the one who reached out. He said, hey, I got a cool story. You want to talk? And I was like, absolutely, I do. So I'm very grateful that happened. So before we do go, give me the social handles. Where can we learn more about you? Your website, the partnership you have with Capital One. Lay it all out there so people have it. I'm then going to put all those in the show notes. So whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're looking at the podcast, we'll have all the links there for everybody so they can click on them. But talk to me a little bit. Where can we go and find a little more information about you?
For sure. So I'm at bcope51 on all social media outlets, BCOPE51. We have a bunch of different resources, life101.io. We have our Money Music Culture podcast that is out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, where we literally just have a conversation. We listen to music and we talk about the financial education lesson within it. So, when Beyonce and in her song, I can't say the name because it has a little cuss word in it, but she talks about pay me in equity, right? Like, well, what does that actually mean, right? Well, some people don't know that Beyonce got the chance to perform at Uber for $6 million in cash, but she decided to say, hey, just pay me that in your stock. And once Uber went public, that 6 million was worth a lot more. So
Yes.
some of our favorite artists are really delivering some financial education gems, and we're too busy like this rather than like, oh, hold on, let me write that note down. So we have fun with that podcast. Again, that's Money Music Culture on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And then also with the things that we've done with Capital One, they have a Learn and Grow. You can go to Learn and Grow on their website, and is a resource hub for people to just learn anything that they're looking for about money, right? Again, we just want to help people feel more confident in the decisions that they're making. Like you said, Mike, you left high school at 18 and you're like, man, like this calculus, I can do the whole algebra thing. I can do some long division if I need to, but like, taxes, you could put me in jail if I get that wrong,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right, exactly. That's a good point.
You probably should know a little bit about this, right? So we just want to be a resource for people, and again, shout out to Capital One for opening opportunities like this, because hopefully, we'll get the chance to have more conversations down the road, Mike.
I would love it, man. One more time, Brandon Copeland, Atlanta Falcons linebacker, but more so Ivy League professor, financial education consultant, philanthropist, real estate developer. Sincerely appreciate your time. It's the only thing we don't get more of, so thank you for giving me some of yours, man.
Amen.
Bye,
Appreciate you,
everybody.
Mike.